Hare Krishna,
Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare.
Put that raw piece of rice in the empty. Then she'd pick up another piece of raw rice. From her heart, with such deep love and separation, she would cry out, Hare Krishna,
Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare.
Put it in. She'd pick up another piece. Hare Krishna,
Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare.
She'd pick up another piece. From about 4 o'clock in the morning till 3:30 in the afternoon, without cessation, she was chanting the mantra on each piece of rice. And at that time, when the little pot was kind of getting filled with rice grains, that rice, whatever rice she chanted the mantra with, and put all her love and devotion into each grain, because this chanting of mantra, it's not just a ritual. In the path of bhakti, the emotion, the devotion, the sincerity, the humility in which we chant is what Krishna reciprocates with. Lord Chaitanya taught us the consciousness we should chant. Trinadapi salichena tador ivasa Vishnuna amanina manadena kirtanina sada. When chanting the mantra, we should feel ourselves more humble than a blade of grass, more forgiving and tolerant than a tree. The blade of grass can step on, and the blade of grass just comes right back up to serve us more under our feet. And the tree, in the summer season in India, a mango tree does not get any water for 8 months. September is the last rains, and it's standing in the sun with no water. And in May is when the mangoes bloom. So for 6 months. And while it's standing in the sun, it's giving the most luscious, juicy, delicious foods for us to eat. And while standing in the sun gives us shade. That's the givingness of a tree. More tolerant than a tree. Eager to give all respect to others and not respect and expect any in return. In this state of mind, we can actually chant with love. Then we can taste the sweetness of the Lord who appears within these divine names. And we can chant constantly. So after chanting from early in the morning to late afternoon, then Vishnu Priya would take that rice and cook it and offer it to the deity of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Would you like to have tasted that rice? Radharani herself is putting all her love and devotion in every grain, individually, personally, and then cooking it and offering it. And she ate nothing else. Once a day, she just ate a small portion of that rice. No dal, no sabjis, no samosas, no halava. She just ate that rice. And that's how she lived the rest of her life. And even the greatest sannyasis and the greatest swamis and the greatest acharyas would come to receive her blessings. Jiva Goswami. He fell at her feet and she blessed him. Srinivasacharya fell at her feet and she blessed him. Not only she blessed them, but for them she cooked all kinds of food. But she only ate that rice herself. Today is the appearance day of Srimati Vishnu. Today is also Saraswati Puja. It is the special day of the year that the goddess Saraswati is worshipped. She is an expansion of the Lord's feminine potency. Saraswati is the goddess of the arts, of music, of art, of poetry, of learning, of wisdom. And in Lord Chaitanya's time, there's a beautiful story regarding seeking the essence in which Goddess Saraswati was participating. Do I have time to tell this story? If you're falling asleep by my stories, please pluck flower petals. Keep yourself awake. There was a great scholar named Keshava Kashmiri. In those days in India, we were speaking 500 years ago, the most popular sport was not baseball or football or basketball or soccer or even cricket. It was debate. People were really excited about debate when two great scholars would come together to see who could defeat the other. So this Keshav Kashmiri was the world undisputed, undefeated champion of scholarship. And the problem was he became so proud. He would win so much money and so much other things and so much fame that wherever he went, there was a procession to take him. There was musicians playing horns and stringed instruments, and there were Brahmins chanting Vedic mantras, all walking in a line, and he would be on a beautiful palanquin, dressed very nicely, and there were people saying, Keshav Kashmiri is coming. He's come to challenge everyone in your village or anyone to debate. And usually the scholars would run away and hide because they did not want to come before him. Because whatever fame they had was washed away by his powers. From his childhood, every single day he did puja to Saraswati. Saraswati puja. And because he did such puja and he worshipped Saraswati so attentively that she blessed him, that every time he opened his mouth, she spoke through him. Now who can defeat her? And everybody knew this. So as he was coming into Navadvip at that time, Lord Chaitanya did not reveal that he was God. He was just playing the role of a very young boy who was a teacher of Sanskrit grammar. So his students were sitting around on the bank of the Ganga with him, and they were saying, Keshav Kashmiri has come to our town. It is said that whenever he opens his mouth, Goddess Saraswati can speak. He's the world champion. We want to, can you imagine? He's coming to our town. And there's all sorts of bands and mantras being chanted in his honor. And Lord Nimai, he looked at them. He said, a great person is like a tree with many fruits. A tree that has many fruits, because of the weight of those fruits, is always bowing low to everyone. But a tree that has no good fruits stands up very straight. So similarly, if a person has the fruit of good character and good qualities, he's humble to offer respect to others. But if a person doesn't, he thinks he's very great. This Keshav Kashmiri feels he's better than everyone. The Lord ultimately does not tolerate ahankar, the false ego. And soon it will be cut down. Now this is a long story, and I'm going to make it very short. Keshav Kashmiri happened to see one night Lord Chaitanya sitting there. Nimai was his name then. And Nimai, he said, "Oh, you are the great Keshav Kashmiri." He offered all respect. "We have heard so much about your scholarship. Please compose a poem glorifying Mother Ganga, the Ganges River." So Keshav Kashmiri is such a brilliant scholar. In a matter of seconds, he composed an original poem that has never been heard before, in beautiful meter, poetic ornamentation, melody, right on the spot. He just spoke over 100 verses. And all the students, nobody has ever done this before. And little Nimai was sitting there watching. He said, "Oh, Pandit, after, like the wind, he just, 100 verses. And Nimai said, "Now, please analyze the good qualities and the faults of your composition." And Keshav Kashmiri said, "My composition never has any fault." "Well, who are you? You're just a little grammar student and a grammar teacher. I'm the king of all scholars. You're saying my code has faults? What faults?" And then little Nimai very politely, he's just a boy, he started pointing out all these faults. He said, "Please explain." And Keshav Kashmiri was about to defeat him, but his tongue wouldn't move. His mind went totally blank. He couldn't think any thoughts. He couldn't say a word. And everybody was waiting for the world champion to say something. This is just a little boy. He never even challenged you. He just wants you to tell. And he was like... And what happened is all the children started laughing like you're laughing. Nimai told them, "Don't laugh, don't laugh. Don't embarrass him." And then Nimai said, "Actually, it's not surprising. You just composed those incredibly beautiful 100 verses, so you must be very tired now. So it's understanding how you can't debate with me at this time. So go to sleep, and tomorrow we'll discuss these things." And he went to sleep. He went home, and he started doing his Saraswati Puja, and he was praying to God, to his goddess, "Why did you abandon me? These great scholars cannot stand before me, and this little boy, a grammar teacher, has defeated me. Have I made some offense to you? Have I done some sin that you just gave me no thoughts and no words, Goddess Saraswati?" And praying like that, he fell asleep. And he was a very special person, because the Goddess Saraswati appeared to him and told him, "You don't understand. Today is the first day I've ever blessed you. Giving you all this knowledge and all this poetic skills and scholarship was not really a blessing. That's all temporary things. But the whole, you have memorized all the scriptures. What is the purpose of the scriptures? The purpose of the scriptures is to love God and to serve God and to know God. And today I have given you the blessing because the very purpose of all the scriptures and all the poems and everything else you recite, that Lord stood right before you. You should know this, that whatever knowledge I give you, I get from the Lord. And all of my beautiful art and poetry and wisdom is for the pleasure of the Lord. My blessing to you today was to humble you, because you cannot know God when you have such ego. What is the use of all your scholarship if you're egoistic? You should feel yourself the humble servant of the servant of the servant of the Lord and respect all living beings. That is real knowledge. Today I have taught you that. Now respect everyone, serve everyone, and take shelter of Nimai. Or else. And then she disappeared. Saraswati Puja today. And then the next morning he came before Lord Chaitanya early in the morning, and he said, do you know how I can understand that you are the Supreme Lord? Because you just performed such a miracle. You completely crushed my ego and my pride without embarrassing me in front of anyone else. You protected my honor while taking away my ego. No one except God could do that. And the Lord gave him a simple instruction. He said, understand that the purpose of all knowledge is to see every living being with equal vision. And with this consciousness, chant the holy name. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. There was a great devotee named Radhanath-Swami-Media. This is Appearance Day also today. He was born in a place called Srikanda. Many of us have gone there. We've had many pilgrimages to that area. It's a beautiful village. I remember the first time we went there there was several hundred devotees in those days. Now there's many more. But we were going to so many places. And by the time we arrived there, it was late at night. It was dark. And especially in those days, to get to Srikanda, you had to, from the buses we were in, we had to walk about a half hour through fields to get to the village. And we were chanting kirtan. And those people from those parts of Bengal, kirtan is such a holy part of their tradition. They worship. I went to Devi, I didn't see you. Welcome. Wonderful to have you. Serious, obeisance to you. The party of devotees. We were going a line, chanting, playing some kartals and some drums, mridangas, singing Krishna's names. And the whole village came out to honor and worship the kirtan. It was beautiful. As we were passing, there were hundreds of people on the side of this footpath offering beautiful little flames of arati to the holy names of those who were chanting. And some had chamara whisks and they were chanting us. And others were standing, because it was a dusty path, they had clay pots of water, these little old ladies even, and they were taking the water and splashing it on the dust so that the dust wouldn't get in our eyes. And so they had all these refreshments, little clay cups of water and different types of herbal teas they were giving us on the side of the road. It was just, we were all crying, such simple little people, how they worship the name of the Lord. And anyone who chants it, they never even met us before. But he was from that place. His father was a family man, obviously. And he was a doctor. He was a Kaviraj, Ayurvedic doctor. His name was Mukunda Das. And what a doctor he was. He was so compassionate and so caring and so empowered that the Mughal king of that area arranged for him to be the personal royal physician. And it describes, and the Mughals were in those days very much persecuting the Hindus. But still, because of Mukunda's qualities, he loved him very much. And one day the king was sitting on a very high platform, giving audience to people. And he called Mukunda to do some diagnosis of his health. And Mukunda was talking to the king. And somebody wanted to shade the king from the sun. And he had a peacock tail fan. And he put it over the king to shade him. When Mukunda saw a peacock feather, who do you think he remembered? He remembered Krishna. He wears a peacock feather in his hair. And he went into such a state of love and ecstasy that he fell unconscious. He went into samadhi. And he rolled off the high platform. And he hit the ground. And the king was horrified. He jumped off his throne. He ran down the steps. He went to the ground. He picked up Mukunda, he put it in his arms, put his head in his lap, and said, Mukunda, what happened? What happened? Are you all right? Are you all right? It's like the patient is now treating the doctor. And Mukunda came to consciousness. He said, what? The king said, what happened? What happened? And he's humble. Devotees, great devotees don't like to show off their advancement. He could have said, well, I saw the peacock feather, and because of my love for Krishna, I went into a trance and fell unconscious. He said, well, king, actually, I have something called epilepsy. And it's something like that, and this sometimes happens to me. And the king said, no, it's because of your love for Krishna. He saw the peacock feather. So even a Mughal king could understand the ecstasy of his love for God. And what deep appreciation he had. So Mukunda had a son named Raghunandan, whose appearance day it is today. Once, Raghunandan was asked by his father to do something that he had never done before. In their house, they had an altar with the deity of Krishna named Gopinath. The same name is our deity here, Gopinath, the Lord of the Gopis. And every day at noontime, Mukunda would make he and his wife would make a beautiful offering of bhoga or food and offer it to Krishna. And after it's offered to Krishna, it becomes prasad, the Lord's mercy, sanctified food. So that day, the king sent a message that Mukunda had to come right away. It was urgent. So Mukunda told his little son, Raghunandan, who was only 5 years old, he said, today you offer the food to Krishna. And Raghunandan said, I don't know how to offer the food to Krishna. And he said, you just put it on the altar and ask Krishna to eat it. And if you do it with devotion and love, Krishna will eat it. So the plate was made, and little Raghunandan, child, he went on the altar, and he put this beautiful plate, all got food on it, and he said, Gopinath, eat, eat. Usually you do mantras and all of that. For offerings, there's mantra, yantra, tantra, puja, mudra, puja, all these things, offerings. He didn't know any of it. He just went, eat, eat. And we learn from tradition, from scripture, that Krishna is Ram. The Lord is all powerful. He accepts the love that we offer. The Brahma Samhita explains how the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Bhagavan, could accept through any of the senses, could eat through his eyes, could taste through his ears, could see through his hands. The Lord's body is Satchit Ananda, eternal, full of knowledge and full of pure spiritual bliss. So that when the Lord glances upon the food, he accepts the love and devotion that is offered, and then that food becomes prasad, the Lord's grace. And it sanctifies us. So the Lord glanced and tasted the devotion and made it all prasad. But little Raghunandan didn't understand these things. He kept saying, eat, eat. And then he was thinking in his heart, my father told me that if I offer with devotion, Krishna will eat. I must have no devotion because he's not eating. So he started crying and crying and crying, his little boy. And finally, his tears affected the deity of Krishna so much that the deity of Krishna spoke. He said, Raghunandan, why are you crying? And the little Raghunandan said, because you're not eating. Because I have no devotion, you're not eating today. And Krishna said, but I already ate. He said, but the food's still there. He said, I ate through my glands, I ate your love. Now it's prasad, I ate. And Raghunandan said, I'm only 5 years old, I don't know all this eating philosophy of yours. All I know is I'm asking you to eat and the food's still there, you still haven't eaten. And Krishna said, all right, I'll eat. And he came down from the altar and ate everything off the plate. Physically. And this was taking a long time. So Raghunandan's mother was wondering, what's happening? And finally, he came off the altar with an empty plate. Now, mothers, what would you think if your son came off with an empty plate? He said, where's the prasad? And Raghunandan, just as a matter of fact, said, Mommy, he ate. Krishna ate it. She said, what do you mean he ate it? She said, I asked him to eat, but he ate. She said, she didn't know what to say. So a little while later, Mukunda comes home and asks, where is the prasad? There is no prasad. His wife, what do you mean there is no prasad? She said, ask your son, Raghunandan. Where's the prasad? And Raghunandan said, Krishna ate it all. He said, Krishna ate it all? He ate it all. And he said, at first he wouldn't eat, so I started crying, and then he came down and actually ate it. I saw him. So Mukunda understood his son was not an ordinary boy. So he gave him a big laddu. Do you all know what is a laddu? A laddu is a very delicious traditional sweet. Krishna really likes laddus. Sometimes he's called Laddu Gopal because he likes laddus. And there are many deities you see of Krishna, a little baby holding a laddu in his hand. So Mukunda Das gave this big laddu and said, offer this to Krishna. And then Mukunda was hiding and watching to see what would happen. Raghunandan offered this ladu. He actually put it right in the deity's hand. He took off his flute and put it in the deity's hand. Krishna has his ladu in his hand. He said, eat, eat. And Krishna just glanced and ate the love. And then Raghunandan started crying, please eat, eat, eat. And then Krishna took the ladu and moved his hand and started eating. And Mukunda Das was actually, Mukunda Das, he was watching from outside the door. And when he saw this, he was amazed. He exclaimed some loud sound. And when Krishna heard that, he stopped eating the ladu. The ladu was half eaten. And to this day, 500 years later, if you go to that temple in Srikhanda, we'll go sometime if you like, that half-eaten ladu is still there. They've preserved it in a nice little case. You can't eat it, but you can see it. And from that day, every day, little Raghunandan would offer a ladu to Gopinath. Would you like to hear another story of Raghunandan? This is an esoteric story. There was a very great devotee named Abhishek Thakur. He was the cowherd boy Sridhama in Krishna's Leela. This Abhishek Thakur, he had so much devotion that there's so many stories about him. But when he would offer obeisances, when he would bow down, if Krishna or God, if God was not personally in the Murti or the deity that he bowed down to, it would just crack and crumble to the ground. And if he would bow down to any human being, if they had even the slightest trace of ego, false ego, or selfish desires, they would die. So he didn't bow down to many people. But everybody knew this. So when Abhishek Thakur heard about little 5-year-old Raghunandan giving Krishna the ladu and all the food, and Krishna personally eating it physically, he proclaimed, he was living in some other part of Bengal, that I have to go and offer my bow down to this boy. 5 years old. So the word spread to Mukunda Das and the mother and everybody else that Abhishek Thakur is coming to bow down to Raghunandan. And oh no, you know, parents don't see their children as being saintly. You know, because Raghunandan, you know, asking for food, he's crying. They're saying he must have, what if he has a trace of desire, he'll die. And they were hearing the news, Abhishek Thakur was coming closer and closer and closer. So finally they decided, we have to hide him. So they took him at the outskirts of town into some relative's house and hid him there. And Abhiram came to the house and said, where is Raghunandan? And they said, he's not home. He's out of town. Loving parents. So Abhiram was chanting God's name, and he went to this exact place where the story happened. It's still there today. And he went to this place, and he was just sitting under a tree. And Raghunandan heard he was there, and he escaped from the house, and he ran to where Abhiram was. And Abhiram saw little 5-year-old Raghunandan. Abhiram is a very elderly man. And when he saw Raghunandan right in front of everybody, Abhiram bowed down. And Raghunandan lived to show he had no desires in his heart. And then Abhiram went up to that little boy and embraced him, and they both started dancing in ecstasy together, bathing each other with their tears of love, loudly chanting Krishna's name. They danced so enthusiastically that the ankle bracelet on little Raghunandan's foot broke and flew 4 miles. And today where that is, they made a lake. And millions of people go to bathe in that lake every year. And when Raghunandan grew up, he was one of the greatest dancers and kirtan singers in the history of the world. Lord Chaitanya would have him the lead dancer at Rath Yatra every year in the party from Shrikanda. Today is also the appearance day of Srila Raghunath Das Goswami, whom Raghunath Prabhu is named after. Raghunath is a name of Ram, Lord Ram, who's the lord of the Raghu dynasty. Nath means Lord Ram. And Raghunath Das, he was born in an extraordinarily wealthy family. They were zamindars, like Pundarik Vidyavidi. His parents were landholders of large tracts of land. By today's standard, they were equivalent to billionaires. He was young, he was beautiful, he was very intelligent, he had everything. But when he was a little boy, his parents, their priest, their guru actually, brought him to a cave to meet Haridas Thakur. Haridas Thakur, by social standards, was born in an untouchable family. But we understand from the scriptures that one should never be calculated simply by one's birth. This whole idea is very mundane. One should respect a person, one should respect every living being, whatever our status in society. Society is like a body. A body has a head, arms, belly, legs, different organs. It's not that one role is necessarily higher than another. They're all meant to be working together. It's just like the head does not say to the legs, "You are simply a lowly leg." No, the head respects the leg because then the leg respects the head. We have kidneys and we have a heart. Some of us have gallbladders, some of us don't. We have eyes, we have ears, we have toes, we have fingers. Every part of the body, they're different shapes, they have different occupational duties, some have different colors, some are in different locations. A healthy body is when all the parts of the body affectionately work together for the cause of the whole body. So whether we're scholars or farmers or engineers or scientists or ladies or men or young or old, whatever we may be, we should all work together, honor each other for the purpose of the society. And the highest purpose of society, like today, whatever our position may be in, we're all contributing our devotion to the Lord. So Haridas Thakur would chant Krishna's names 300,000 times a day. That's a lot. If you chant on a mala, that's 192 rounds of your mala. It takes about 20 hours. And he would do that every day. And he was living in a cave. He had no possessions. The Lord worshipped him. The Lord worships a pure soul. He doesn't care what our birth is. And little Raghunath was so affected by him that he wanted to give his whole life to the service of the Lord. He had no attachments to anything. And he was just a young boy, a teenager. He ran away from home to join Lord Chaitanya in Puri. And every time he'd run away, his parents would catch him and bring him home again. And he'd run away a few days later, and he'd be caught, and he'd run away. And finally, it's a long story, but he went to Puri. And he lived in such ecstasy of love of God. He wanted nothing for himself. He wanted to just give everything for others, for Krishna's service. And eventually, he was eating practically nothing. But he was fully happy. He was just sleeping on the ground, wearing what people would throw away. And Lord Chaitanya was so deeply moved by his devotion. In Puri, the rice that's offered to Jagannath, some of it is put in these food booths where the shopkeepers would sell it. And some of it was given free to people, to poor people. And when the rice was, any rice that was not given away or bought, after a few days it would get kind of spoiled. They would throw it in a pile outside the temple courtyard, and that pile is still there today. You can go together if you like. And cows would come to eat it. And some rice was so spoiled that it was not palatable to the cows. They would spit it out. And Raghunath, without telling anybody, in the middle of the night would go and pick up those grains of rice that were spit out from the cows. And he would take it home, and he would take the little portion inside the grain of rice and wash it and eat it. And one day Lord Chaitanya, who's Krishna himself, he heard about this. He said, Raghunath, I heard you're eating very nice food. And Raghunath said, no, I'm not. The Lord's in everyone's heart. He knew. So he reached behind Raghunath and got this little bowl of the cow rice. And he ate some. And Raghunath and Swarup Damodar, they held his hand. No, don't, this is not fit for you. Do not eat anymore. And Lord Chaitanya started to cry. He said, I have tasted so many cakes and so many vegetables and so many preparations, but I have never tasted anything so sweet and fulfilling and delicious as what Raghunath is eating every day. What was the Lord tasting? He was tasting Raghunath, the spirit of Raghunath's love. He was expressing his love through his completely unselfish renunciation. Sometimes renunciation makes us hard-hearted or egoistic. It usually does. But for real bhakti, it makes our heart very soft and very humble. Then Lord Chaitanya gave Raghunath the most precious of all of his possessions, a little stone from Govardhana, which is sacred, considered to be the holy body of Krishna in this stone. Lord Chaitanya wore this for several years, and it was always covered with his tears. And he gave that Govardhan Shila to Raghunath Goswami. And eventually Raghunath Das Goswami went to Vrindavan, where he lived at Radha Kund. He gave up, he was the only heir to a fortune of billions and billions and billions of dollars worth of property and wealth. And he had no concern for it. He was so grateful just to have this little piece of stone. By material standards, it's just a piece of stone. It's not a diamond or a ruby or an emerald. It's just a little piece from a rock. But for him, he understood that this is infinitely more valuable than all the wealth in the world. Because he saw Krishna in it, in him. He gave his life and soul. There are beautiful stories of Radhanath-Swami-Media. The nature of his compassion, the nature of his devotion. And to this day, there are, in our Sampradaya, we honor and worship him as having the highest standards. Although he hardly ate anything, he never had, even though he was just living in a forest practically alone with this little Govardhan Shiva, he was so busy chanting God's names and reading scriptures and serving others. He would offer obeisances. He would bow down to at least 2,000 people a day. Whoever he saw, he considered himself the servant of. He never had time to sleep more than half hour a day for his whole life. It's not like he would catch up on weekends or something. No one was watching him with the clocks and Radhanath wake up. He just didn't have time. He was so busy, absorbed, immersed in doing seva and chanting. Disappearance day of Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti. It's late. So I'll only speak about 2 minutes, maybe 3 minutes. It's a beautiful story, his life. He was born in Devagram in Bengal. He was so absorbed in reading Srimad Bhagavatam. So absorbed in reading Srimad Bhagavatam that one time he was sitting just in an open field studying the Srimad Bhagavatam. And the king of the province was on a palanquin in a procession going by that area. And suddenly there was a massive monsoon rainstorm. And the king was being sheltered by all of his people. And he happened to see this Vishwanath Chakravarti sitting there in the open field studying the scripture. And he noticed something miraculous. There was rain all the way around him, but right where he was sitting, not a drop fell. He was so absorbed. The Lord was protecting him in this way. But in Vrindavan, which he went to Vrindavan later in his life, and at that time, due to the conquerors who had usurped India at the time, they went to Vrindavan because it wasn't their religion. They were breaking the temples, they were breaking the deities, they were murdering the devotees. This is history. And Vrindavan was so demoralized. And then came Vishwanath Chakravarti. He came to that very beaten down situation. And by his devotion, by the incredible literatures he was writing, by his compassion, by his fearlessness, he practically single-handedly This is about 4 generations after Raghunath Goswami when this happened. He gave so much inspiration, so much courage, so much life. He created an entire renaissance of devotion in Vrindavan. And the literatures he compiled are very much foundational basis of the lives of tens of millions of people even today. So we offer our honor to Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur today, the Sant Panchami. I'm so grateful that you tolerated me for so long.